as I look around the NFL, I see 4 coaches who are on the hot seat, meaning I see 4 coaches who are at risk of being fired. And here's why I believe these coaches might be fired. Number one, the first coach I think is at risk of being fired is the Jets head coach, Adam Gase. This is the most obvious one to me. I'd be surprised if he made it really to the end of the year. He will likely be fired mid-season, if not after losing to the Denver Broncos on Thursday Night Football. If they lose, we'll see what happens there. The Jets are awful. And I know that I dated this just now by saying it's before the game. Doesn't matter. They've been awful for a while. Adam Gase appears to have lost the locker room. Now, the hope was when Adam Gase joined the New York Jets, the hope was that he would be able to help the Jets' young quarterback, Sam Darnold. And instead of helping Sam, it appears that he has just, ruined Sam Darnold instead, which is just, it's a tragedy. It's frustrating for Jets fans, I imagine. Adam Gase appears to be on his way out. Bad leadership. I wouldn't want him working with my son. He is not the answer in New York. It appears pretty obvious right now. Now, the second coach I believe is in the hot seat is the Atlanta Falcons head coach, Dan Quinn. I think he's likely going to get fired. Now, by the way, I'm not rooting for these guys to get fired. I want it to be clear. I'm not comfortable with calling for somebody's job. I try not to do that as much as I can because I remember when my dad lost his job in 2008. It's brutal. Like, these are human beings. These are real people. It's not fun. But I also got to say, these are predictions based on what I see. And what I see in Atlanta is that they have developed a culture of blowing leads. I mean, blowing a fourth quarter lead against whoever they're playing, it seems like. It seems like blowing a fourth quarter lead in Atlanta is becoming a common occurrence. And that's not acceptable. That's not okay. That can't happen. And Dan Quinn is supposed to be a defensive-minded head coach. Defense is supposed to be his specialty. And yet, when you watch the Falcons, you go, I don't see that anywhere at all. I see missed tackles. I see blown assignments. I see maybe the ideas are good, but it's not working in practice. And maybe he's a good coordinator. I don't know. He did well at his previous job. But as a head coach, it's not working. And it's become pretty clear watching the Falcons this year, they need new leadership. They blew lead in the Super Bowl a couple years ago. They blew a huge lead in the fourth quarter to the Cowboys. Again, they had a 16-point lead against the Chicago Bears halfway through the fourth quarter, and they lost. And they keep mismanaging things and doing a lot of things wrong. It's pretty clear to me the Atlanta Falcons need new leadership. Number 3, I believe Bill O'Brien for the Houston Texans is at risk of being fired. And by the way, Bill O'Brien is not just the head coach in Houston. He's also the general manager. What that means is that Bill O'Brien is not just coaching the team, he's also making personnel decisions. And so, it seems like he's bad at both, right? The Texans are 0-3, and not to mention the earlier past year's failures as well. And then the big moves that Houston made as a general manager, you look at, he traded away DeAndre Hopkins. He's a star now in Arizona with the Cardinals. That appears to be a horrible trade. The guy they got for DeAndre Hopkins, David Johnson. The nicest thing I can say is that it was just a very unequal trade. Not a good trade. I don't want to hate on David Johnson. It's not his fault that he was the victim of a really poor decision by the Houston Texans, making him look bad. I feel bad for David Johnson. He was even put in that position in the first place. Terrible trade, horribly unequal. Not to mention they added Brandon Cooks. They added Randall Cobb. Neither of those receivers are really panning out either. Bill O'Brien appears to be a failure both as a head coach and as a general manager. I know that's harsh, but it's true. The Texans are 0-3. The next 4 games they play Minnesota, they play the Jaguars, they play the Titans, and they play the Green Bay Packers. Week 8, Houston has a bye week. Think about this. At best, the Houston Texans are going to be 3-4 going into their bye week, and it's likely going to be a lot worse. It's not good. I believe Bill O'Brien is on his way out. The Texans have this amazing quarterback, Deshaun Watson, and the reality is you cannot waste the best years of Deshaun Watson. That's just awful. That's not acceptable. Now, I want to also be clear. The third coach on this list and the fourth coach on this list have a similar problem. So number 3 is Bill O'Brien. Number 4 is the Detroit Lions head coach, Matt Patricia. These guys are both former Bill Belichick assistant head coaches in New England. They've worked with Bill Belichick, and they've taken on Bill Belichick's kind of colder approach to being a head coach. And what's sad is they haven't really put their own spin on it. It's not authentic to them. And the problem is, when you act like Bill Belichick, but you're not Bill Belichick, I mean, if you don't have 6 Super Bowls in New England like Bill Belichick does, it's hard for people to treat you the same way they treat Bill Belichick. You don't have the cachet. You don't command the same level of respect that Bill Belichick does. You can't get away with the same stuff he can. Brian Flores, the head coach of Miami, is another Bill Belichick assistant, but what he's done is different. He has put his own unique spin, and he's coaching in his own way. He's not trying to be Bill Belichick. He's trying to be Brian Flores, and that is way more effective. What he's doing in Miami, he's building something. It's hard to see. We're looking at Miami now. We're going, we'll see if they work out. But in a couple of years, I believe in Miami because partly Brian Flores is not trying to copy somebody else. He's being authentic. He's taking what he learned from Bill Belichick, but doing it in his own way. With Matt Patricia and Bill O'Brien, we haven't seen that. Players don't respect that approach unless you're Bill Belichick and can go, hey, I've won 6 championships. You better listen to what I say. That kind of colder way of ruling your team like a dictator doesn't work unless you have the cachet Bill Belichick does. So again, to be clear, I believe that Matt Patricia, the Detroit Lions head coach, may get fired. Detroit, from their ownership, Detroit's ownership is tired of being mediocre. They want to win. They want to be in the playoff hunt. And if the Lions are not in the playoff discussion this year, they're 1-2 right now. If they're not in the playoff discussion when the year ends or sooner, they're going to get rid of Matt Patricia, in my opinion. And it might be the right thing. I mean, there's been a lot of dissension in the locker room, a lot of this. People have left angry. People have been really frustrated with Matt Patricia. I don't think it's working, and we might see a total reset with the Detroit Lions.